Guys, what the hell was this episode today, dude? I was caught completely off guard. Because let me tell you guys, I think this is an anime-only original episode. I don't remember this from the light novel. This is not in it. To be fair, I have not finished Volume 5 yet, so maybe this is a little scene in it, but I don't remember this entire episode. This is all new. It caught me so off guard. I thought we were doing something else today. I thought we were going into the next arc and we get this shit instead. We literally get our fan service episode, part 2. And I was not ready. This episode is just ridiculous. It's the definition of fan service in more ways than one. Because we get a lot of the other characters focused. Bro, our episode focuses on Bulk and Skull. Come on. Who wants that? Even I don't want that. Come on now. Absolutely ridiculous episode. So let's just hop straight into it and talk about the Eminence in Shadow, Season 2, Episode 8 today with this goofy-ass episode. So our episode today begins with Bulk and Skull saying, "Sid, wake up, man. Today's the perfect day to get chicks. Our lucky chance today is going to be picking up working older women. Because that'll work out." But as they barge into this man's room, we see he's not here after the events of our previous episode. He went on a long journey. I do think it's really funny that he just has mundane man's head just sitting here and no one says anything. Like, didn't we see him in the tournament? Why does Sid have his head here? Stupid. Can't forget about John Smith's mask next to it too. Iconic. But it's here as they walk into the room, they suddenly notice these tickets he has on his table as their Mitsugoshi Hot Springs Land tickets. As Bulk's like, my god, these items are so premium, not even the highest ranking nobles can get them. As Skull says, why would Sid have them? But it's here! We come up with an idea, guys. An ingenious one. As Skull says, even rich dudes can't get these tickets, right? So if we show them to some girls, the odds of our chick hunting succeeding will go through the roof, baby. As Bulk says, you mean we might even get somewhere with the glamorous girls of Mitsugoshi? As we see that there's 6 tickets here. As Bulk says, assuming 3 of them are for girls, and 2 of them is for us, what about the last one? As Skull says, it's an extra one for me. As we see they put their ingenious plan into motion. We see them go to Mitsugoshi and ask New out immediately with these tickets in hand. And she's kinda shocked to see them. And as we transition to our next scene, that shock turns into being pissed off. As she starts downing some wine, bro, New ain't having any of this. As she says, I'm gonna ask you to this one more time. These VIP tickets were given only to a chosen few. How did these come into the possession of young gentlemen such as yourself, huh? She's more demanding than asking. I love the fact that the other members of Mitsugoshi are polishing weapons as New's asking this question. Like, you better answer, motherfuckers. As they tell her they were gifts. As she says, you didn't steal them or find them on the ground? As Bulk says, no, we only took them from our friends. Our friend let us have them. Our good friend Sid. And upon hearing that, it's starting to click a little bit with New. As Skull says, he told us to take them and ask the ladies of Mitsugoshi out on a date. A bold-faced lie. But she don't need to know that. As she says, are you referring to the young master Sid Kagano? As Skull says, yeah, that's my bosom buddy, Sid. As they say, miss, do you happen to be acquainted with our friend Sid? More than you know. And it's here New starts thinking, he took the tickets we arranged for him and gave them to his classmates, thus calling the numbers to assemble. As she asks them, I assume Sid Kagano will be present on this date, yes? As they're like, yeah, sure, he'll be there, I swear. As New thinks, I never imagined you would use students from the academy like this to send such a complicated code. What does Lord Shadow want from us? And as she's leaving, she tells them, it's a very appealing offer. Sure it is, New. I will take it into serious consideration as an option. So quit running your mouths and sit still, you little brats. New can be quite vicious. And it's here as we transition to our next scene. It's time for a very serious meeting with the Seven Shadows. As Alpha says, he gave his tickets to his classmates and invited Shadow Garden's numbers. He must have some purpose in mind to use the tactic of a group date to invite me, to invite us to join him at Mitsugoshi Land Hot Springs. As Zeta asks, what's Mitsugoshi Hot Springs Land? And it's Eda's turn to shine. As we hear, Mitsugoshi Hot Springs Land is a relaxation resort complex set to open this coming week. With theming based around the legend of the Dragon's Tears, this groundbreaking. As we hear, please don't read the description straight out of the brochure. Come on, be professional. As Zeta says, the Dragon's Tears. What's that? And Epsilon tells her it was something Lord Shadow told us on that fateful day. And it's here with the power of Eda's movie-making magic. We transition to that fateful day as we see, even as kids, they were cleaning house and taking people out. As we suddenly hear, you can't have them. You'll never have the Dragon's Tears. As the man suddenly dies. And it's here Sid asks them all, do you know of the Dragon's Tears? As Alpha says, I've heard of it. I believe there is a reference to something like that in this region's folklore. As Sid just starts grinning like, oh, I can make some bullshit up with this, baby. Let's go. As he says, a legend that has slumbered since ancient times. It is salvation for the soul. As he tells them all, dig up the entire region. The dazzling radiance that fills the land. The golden tears raining down from the heavens. Now, dig, ladies. As Alpha says, 3 days later, he left the region in a terrible hurry. He ran. Surely he's off on a crucial mission that only he's capable of accomplishing. That man Shadow. But if that is his choice, we will abide by it. If he has unfinished business here, then we'll finish it in his place. And it's here while they were all digging, we see that Eda, very adorably I might add, finds a hot spring here. And that is the story of Mitsugoshi Hot Spring Land. And it's here Epsilon says, we dug through that whole area, but we didn't sense any dragon magic there. As Gamma says, with the data we currently have, it's impossible to know for sure. As Alpha adds, I'm sure we'll find out more if we go on this Hot Springs date with him. And it's here! Everything gets real quiet all of a sudden as we hear, we gave him a total of 6 tickets. With his 2 school friends, that brings our Lord's party to 3. It'd be reasonable to match him 3 for 3. Meaning only 3 of us can go. Which actually doesn't make any sense because this is literally their place. They could just walk in, bro. Like, this whole scene doesn't make sense. They own the place. They could just go at any time. But that wouldn't be fun, as Beta says. But the question is, who will go? As Delta says, I want to go on a Hot Springs date with the boss. As Nu says, they asked me personally, maybe I should go, as all of them throw knives at her. As Alpha says, you have business to attend to. You can't go on this mission. Back off, sister. As Epsilon says, this is definitely some power harassment right here. As Alpha says, I imagine this mission will not be possible for any of us but the 7 Shadows. So I will personally go, as we suddenly hear, wait a minute. As Beta says, shouldn't we consider the operative's ability to adapt to public society? Eda says, we should send someone who knows the area. Me. Gamma says, surely this mission will require someone with the ability to manage a budget at a water park, sure. Epsilon says, considering the length of the mission, I believe it calls for someone with superior control of her magic. Me. Zeta says, shouldn't we have someone who has resourcefulness to adapt to any change in the situation? Me. As Delta says, I'm going on the hot spring date with the boss. And it's here. We're at the definition of an impasse. As Alpha says, it appears we have no other choice. And as everyone leaves the room to just the 7 shadows, we see a time-honored ancient battle method is chosen to prove who's gonna go. 7 shadows, rock, paper, scissors. Not to be confused with regular rock, paper, scissors. Oh, no. Quite a fierce duel indeed. And as we transition to our next scene, we see that Zeta, Beta, and Delta were the ones that ended up winning. And they get to be Bulk and Skull's dates here. Poor girls, man. As Skull says, you know, I heard Miss Rena had some urgent business. New. But don't worry, each of you is just as beautiful as her. As Beta immediately says, you seem to be missing someone here. Zeta says, I don't see Mr. Sid Cogino with you at all. Fuck's up with that? As they're like, yeah, he had to cancel. That's what it was, yeah. As he's like, wait, no, actually, he's coming. He's just running late. That's it. He'll be here later. Bro, if I was these girls, I'd have left immediately hearing that. Ain't no way. As they ask, he really is coming, right? And they say, yeah, sure. As they're like, oh, is that all? Okay. In that case, you should have just said something from the beginning. And as they leave, Skull says, you know, is it me? Or was that really awkward? And it's here Bulk says, this is bad, man. An ironclad rule of dating is to have an equal number of boys and girls. At this rate, one of them will be stuck as the 5th wheel. As Skull says, damn it, it's all because there's only one of me. As Bulk says, for now, we'll have to buy time sticking with the story that Sid's coming later. He's not. As we see that Elizabeth and Mary decide to come for a water trip too. Why not? But you see, guys, Bulk and Skull have a plan here to make this date a success, as we see they're reading from Count Virgin Boy's book. World's Best Love Tips, your heart-pounding first Hot Springs date edition. As we hear Count Virgin Boy is a legendary pickup artist who has practiced the art 28,000 times in the course of his life. And at the age of 30, earned himself the honorable title of Wizard. As we hear, today's the day we become men. Never thought we'd have an episode focused on these two. Oh, God. And it's here, guys, we transition to a pretty titillating scene that I don't know how much I can show of, honestly, as we hear Alpha say, then Shadow really isn't here, huh? As Zeta says, according to his schoolmates, apparently not. As Alpha says, the possibility remains that he may not come at all, though. As Gamma says, that's probably right. I believe he's entrusted this mission entirely to us. As Alpha adds, of course, he could show up, though, which is why we all must be prepared. As we see, Alpha's just enjoying herself now. This ain't about the mission. This is about having fun. As Zeta even says, you seem pretty enthusiastic. As Epsilon says, yeah, she didn't come out looking very good after that last incident. Crying on the floor and all that. Not a good look. And it's here as we transition to our next scene. Our date begins. And what a travesty this is. We see all of them start playing beach volleyball. Only for Delta to get into a fight with Zeta here. Cats and dogs, after all. As she easily dodges it and hits the ball right in Skull's face. And it's here Epsilon says, what do they think they're doing? As Gamma says, I knew I should have been chosen for this mission. As Alpha tells him, it's fine. They all seem to be having fun. I don't know how long it's been since we spent time just playing around like this, after all. As she says, what if this is what he wanted all along? We have been battling continuously, never taking a minute to rest. It means we've constantly been on our guard with no time for mental or emotional relaxation. I know this string on Beta here is being put to the test, that's for sure, and it looks like it failed. As Alpha says, I wonder if he gave us this respite out of consideration for our well-being. You know, I highly doubt that, but you never know. But it's here. Etta suddenly appears with a problem, as she tells them, I just picked up an abnormal magical signature. And it's coming from deep underground. And it's here as we transition to these two idiots again. We hear Skull says, dude, I don't remember anything that happened after they asked me to play volleyball earlier. As Bulk says, I don't even know how I got to be on this raft, dude. Join the club. As Skull asks, where are the girls anyway? And Skull tells him, oh, they're at the women's bath. And it's here Skull says, wait, I thought we came here on a date and they specifically went to the girls' bath? Does that mean they're avoiding us? Yes, 1000% yes. But Bulk says, just the opposite, my friend. According to Count Virgin Boy, when girls leave the table at a group date, it's to discuss who gets which boy, so there's no overlap, obviously. So in fact, this is good news, my friend. Because since ancient times, when men and women are divided at a hot spring, there's an ancient tradition that must be upheld. Skull knows what he means. As he says, you don't mean, and Bulk says, yes I do, my friend. And before we transition to our next scene, I gotta say, it's kind of surreal to see Elizabeth and Alexia in a steam room together. A little surreal. And it's here as we transition to our next scene. We see the mission's been abandoned at this point. They're just all playing around at this point. As Beta says, this won't do it all, Beta. If you don't do something, this will be the end of another mission. Where all you were was a delicate and lovely elven princess. As Zeta says, I think we're going to have to rethink what our Lord's objective really is here. You mean the one he doesn't have? Yeah, I would say so. As she says, what I keep coming back to is the dragon's tears. And it's here, guys. It's time for a little story, as we hear, once upon a time, there lived in this land a kind and gentle princess. One day, the princess rescued a small dragon that had been separated from its clutch. The princess and the dragon became fast friends, and they grew up together. But their days of peace and happiness eventually came to an end. For war had broken out. The dragon fought to protect the princess, fending off 100,000 soldiers despite being afflicted with deep wounds. But when the dragon returned to find the princess, all that remained of the royal capital was ruins. In the castle, the princess was about to breathe her last. The dragon said to her, Your Highness, please open your eyes. Let us soar through the skies together once more. But just then, a single tear fell from the princess's lifeless facade. And the dragon, in turn, began to weep uncontrollably. Hot tears flooded the land, covering the entire kingdom. The princess awoke to find a mysterious spring of warm water filled with the essence of life. But the dragon was nowhere to be seen. And as she called his name, her voice merely echoed throughout the uninhabited sky. As we hear, it may be that what our Lord truly seeks is hidden somewhere inside this tale. As we suddenly hear, so is it the water you think we should be focusing on? But according to all our research, it's just normal hot spring water. But we'll come back to that conversation because it's here! It's time to be a degenerate. As Skull gets into place and says, we can't use magic or they'll catch us. But we have our white-hot friendship. Because according to Count Virgin Boy, the bold men get the chicks. And as he pulls up Bulk, Skull says, we may not be able to do it alone. As Bulk says, but together, we can break the curse of our virginity! As Edda activates their defense system, shooting them in the face with poison right here. As she says, nothing's impossible for the wisdom of the shadows. As it obviously got in their eyes and they start crying, but as their tear hits the water, something happens. The whole resort starts shaking and reacting to it. Everywhere we go, we see that the whole resort is responding to that tear. As Edda says, I just detected that magic again. As she realizes the hot springs reacting to tears. And as Delta hits the button again, they hit Bulk and Skull again with that shit in the eyes. As Edda says, well, the reaction isn't any stronger. As Zeta says, well, if we're talking about tears here, in the legend, it was the princess's tears. And it's here! Edda gets an idea. Never a good thing, by the way. As she says, self-proclaimed lovely elven princess, huh? As she says, the wisdom of the shadows always requires a sacrifice. As Delta uses her machine to trap Beta here. We know where this is going. And it's here, Edda takes out a interesting item and says, This is an artifact that you insert in the rear to improve bowel functions. As Beta says, wait, I might want that. How is that an artifact? As Zeta says, its side effects include excessive leakage from every orifice in the body. And I'm just sitting here like, go on, Eminence and Shadow, you have my attention now. And it's here for this plan to work. We gotta get Beta to cry. As she says, I don't suppose you mind if I remodeled you until you're nothing but a beat-up old rag, do ya? The master even said, I hate pick-me's after all. Yikes. As Beta is floored like, no, anything but that. He said he's fed up with silver-haired elves who are obviously faking it. As Beta says, I'm trying just as hard as the rest of you, damn it. And as her tears hit the water, we get a big reaction from the spring this time. As everyone pays attention now. As the whole place is going to shit. And as a giant water dragon appears, Alpha says, is this what Shadow was trying to tell us? No. As Gamma says, if we don't do something, it'll damage the facility. As Alpha says, let's go everyone. And we get our transformation scene from season 1. Bro, I've wondered for so long where the hell this came from. And it came from this the whole time. I never knew where this scene came from. And now I do. As Epsilon says, what's with these clothes? And Etta says, we can't have the public know we're Shadow Garden after all. Because, yeah, this will really conceal it. As we see, they're all putting in work on this dragon here. As Alpha says, goodbye, oh tragic dragon of antiquity. And as she delivers the final blow, everything goes back to normal. As all of a sudden, golden tears start raining down from the heavens. As Etta says, the hot springs have been imbued with magical properties now. As Gamma says, hell yeah, a new business opportunity, baby. And it's here as we see her crying here. We see the dragon actually come and wipe Beta's tear away from the story. At the end of the day, it fulfilled its promise to the princess. A different kind, but still the same. As Alpha says, I'm sure Shadow wanted to rescue the soul of that kind and gentle dragon. Yeah, sure. And it's here as we transition to our next scene. We see that Shadow Garden turns everything into a business opportunity. As we hear, I hope you enjoyed our special event based on the Dragon Tears Hot Spring. Now, please feel welcome to purchase our new, limited edition, grand opening merchandise. Today only, we're offering a special discount if you buy it all. As Alpha says it for me, it looks like everything worked out well. And it's here she thinks about all the fun that they had today, that they actually got to relax for a little bit for once. She thinks, thank you for a wonderful day off today, Shadow. And the absolute funniest scene in this episode that I was on the floor dying for is that we transition back to the hot spring room that Alexia was in, and we just hear the slap. I couldn't stop laughing. The slap from season 1, remember? When Sid hits himself with the towel? I was dying laughing. It was so fucking funny, dude. 10 out of 10 joke right there. And as we transition to Bulk and Skull here, Skull says, I don't remember a single thing that happened all day. As Bulk says, what a coincidence, neither do I. As they almost certainly wipe their memories here. As Skull says, but according to Count Virgin Boy, to become a man means to be reborn. As Bulk says, so you're saying in exchange for becoming men, we lost our memories? This is a giant leap for male virgins. But for men, it's just the first small step. We won't be stopped. We'll keep going forward. Our celebratory journey begins here. And on this absolutely absurd point, our episode ends. Alright guys, I didn't expect this video to be as long as it is. I was having a little bit of fun with this episode though. If I can't have fun with this episode, when can I have fun, guys? This absolutely absurd fucking episode that I didn't know anything about. It felt like season 1 all over again for me, guys. I didn't know it was gonna happen, so it was a really fun episode, actually. Who'd have thought that we could do this show and have an episode without Sid in it? Crazy. Now, I want our boy back, and he will be back next week when we do actually start our arc, which I quite like this arc, too. I think you'll like it as well. But what a fucking stupid episode, but a great one that took me by surprise, and I loved it. So I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. But until next time, I hope you all have a great day, week, month, and year. And until then, deuces, have a blessed day. And I will see you guys next time for something that's hopefully not as absurd. I'll see you guys.